Okay, the song we're going to talk about is Let It All Bleed Out off Rob Zombie's Educated Horses. This was the first song that we recorded together, and I was actually really nervous because me and Rob were doing this benefit for the tsunami survivors, and I remember Rob saying, "Oh, why don't you come into the studio? We're going to be up at Scott Humphreys, and we're going to start recording this song." And I was, really excited because this was the first time I get to record with Zombie. I go in there, and I was nervous because it was always Rob and Scott, and then here I come to do this guitar part. So I was pretty nervous about it, and so we started with this guitar riff that Scott had, and then me and Rob would contribute, and we were just building and building and building, and we came up with some really great stuff. And there's some cool guitar things in it. There's some behind the nut stuff in the break, in the B section of the song. And there's some pretty cool harmonics and some pick scraping stuff that sounds like effects, but they're actually just made with your hands and your pick. No weird effects or anything like that. So it'll be a little different than your everyday lessons. You'll have some weird sounds to play with. The tuning with this song, you start out with your E string is tuned down to a C, and then everything else is tuned a whole step down. So your A string is a G, your D string is a C, your G string is an F, your B string is an A, and your E string is a D. And it's tuned down to an open chord, which you see a lot of of rock bands play in this tuning, like Motley Crue, or there's tons and tons and hundreds of thousands of bands that use this tuning where it's a chord here, so you can just play it with your first finger. The reason this tuning was being played is Dolly Parton, a great singer-songwriter, would have these huge fingernails back in like the early or the mid-'60s or something like that, which I saw. And she would tune her guitar a certain way because she couldn't place her fingers on the neck. She had these gigantic nails like Freddy Krueger or something. So she would just lay her fingers on the guitar this way. But let alone, it sounds really awesome when you do that with distortion and things like that. There's not really a lot of effects on this song. Just a little chorus, but it's a lot of it is done with your fingers and your pick and behind the nut. Let's start with the intro. It's pretty much a rhythm in the beginning. There's no fingers on the neck. You're basically just giving the rhythm. There's just open strings on the first two strings. Your E and your A, which is your C and your G, technically. So we're starting out. I'll play it up to speed and then I'll break it down. So what we're doing here is I'm muting a little bit so you don't hear the other strings ring out. And you're just hitting these two strings. So slow, it's and what I'm doing for the little answer there, it's D twice, C, D again, then E flat. And everything else is basically a rhythm, and you're taking your first finger and hitting your F note and your B flat. So it makes a chord when you're hitting this. So slow again. And then up the speed. Practicing this rhythm, it's not very, exciting to play with your fingers. Things aren't going crazy, but this is so important rhythmically to get your right hand just playing that rhythm. And in time, I always practice with a metronome, and that's the best thing to do, or to play along with the CD. And that's what I used to do all the time, and just because your time has to be perfect. For the future, being in the studio or playing live, you want to have your time signature perfect. It's so important because you have to have it sound clean, and if it's not perfectly on time, then you have to stop tape and redo it again. So you start out slow. And just sit and play that over and over again, and then after a while you'll get it up to speed. And that lick there again is D twice, C, D, and E flat. Now the very last part of this intro, this sounds like an effect, but it's not. It's a second. So we have D, and then we have E flat, which is a second. And when you play those together, they sound very broken and wrong, but it sounds very right for this kind of song. So you're taking your first finger and putting it on your D note, and you're taking your pinky and putting it on your E string. So you have... And it sounds like a weird effect, but it's... I'll play it, and this is how it goes in the song. And that's the end right before the vocal comes in. And again, that's just D and E flat. It's very simple. And then the strumming is... And slow. It's same riff we were talking about earlier. And, you can always use that. It makes it sound a little odd, a little broken, a little scary. And it's just a second. And that's when the verse starts and the vocals come in. And it's pretty much the same thing as the intro. It is the same thing as the intro, but you're leaving your second out of the last part of the intro. It's basically playing the intro over and over again. And then now here's where it changes. It goes into the B section, and we're going to do a little behind the nut strumming. We had in the studio, we were holding on this chord. The part goes like this. Instead of that long hold, I started playing, because the beat was still going, so I started playing behind the nut with the open strings on the beat. So it would sound like this. It just sounds a little broken and strange. And actually, it's very easy. This is the chorus of the song, and it starts open, and then on your B flat, your A, your G, and open. So you have, and you do that twice. Then you take your pick, you reach behind the nut, and you just strum to the beat. And it doesn't matter what string you hit, because they're just going to ring out, and that's what gives that sound. And then we're going to move to the solo section of the song, which there's 2 lead parts, and this one comes pretty early in the song. I'm going to go through this very slow, and but the solo is played pretty fast, but I'll play it up to speed and then break it down real slow. I hope I can play it slow, but it goes. So it's a lot of like strange effects. There's some cool alternate picking, some harmonics, and some pick scrapes. So slow, it's. So we have C, D, E flat. Then we have D, E, and F. Then we're going to go back to the C, D, and E flat. Same shape with your fingers, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to go up to F, G, and A flat. So, and you're picking up, down, up, down, up, down. And this is something, of course, that's going to take some practice, and just practice with that metronome. Practice slow and then speed up. That's the part slow, a little faster. And then just keep it going faster and faster until you get that, get it up to tempo. And what that is we're starting with a D harmonic. And you're just basically plucking it, alternate up and down, and you're just taking your third finger just lightly up the string, not even pressing down, but just lightly creating a harmonic. And with enough distortion, this will create the harmonic to go up and down the neck, such as. And you just lightly do that, so you're not pressing down on the string at all. It's just lightly grazing over it. And, you know, of course, it takes practice, and you don't want it to be too light, because you'll hear the open string ring out. And it's got, you know, tons. Every guitar player has done this, but it sounds really cool up to speed. And then the second part of it, you just take the side of your pick, which I use a trusty Fender John 5 pick, and you take the side of your pick and just scrape it against the strings, and it adds an effect. And this is again where I'm saying I'm not using any pedals or anything. I'm just trying to create all these sounds with just my hands, and I'm just basically taking this the smooth part of the pick and grazing it fast over the strings on tempo. So slow, it sounds like, which sounds terrible, but when you do it up to speed, it sounds very erratic and a great way to end the solo. So you're just taking the side of the pick and grazing over the strings. But when it's up to speed, it sounds really cool. And so that whole solo section, I'll play it up to speed and then I'll break it down again. So slow. And then with the harmonic. Sounds kind of odd, slow. Back up to speed. And then we're going to the, there's a break in the song, which is very simple. You're just going back to your A chord. So you have your first finger going over your E string, your A string, and your D string, creating your chord, because we're in that open tuning, so you can play that chord, that Dolly Parton thing that I was talking about earlier, just with one finger. So you have A, C, F, and G. So here's how it is up to speed. And of course, slow. So it's a pretty easy part of the song. The last part of the song, of course, it goes into a verse and another chorus and break. But there's one more, there's a breakdown of the song where it's basically pretty quiet. And in the, it's another, remember I was talking about that second before with that D and that D sharp where it sounds very odd and broken. I'm doing that again in the breakdown, and it's kind of a quiet part of the song. And it sounds kind of eerie and strange. So it's very simple. You're just hitting your open G. Your first finger is on your A flat, which creates that second. And you want to have your G string ring out. And you take your pinky and put it on your G note on your B string. So all together you have. And you're starting with the G, the D, back to the G, 3 times, and then you're hitting your B string, and then you're skipping your G and hitting your D string for the end. So you're doing it 3 times, and then the B string and the D string to end it. And always have that G string ring out. That gives an illusion of just it just as a whole, and makes it sound kind of strange and eerie. And then after that, we go into back to the verse and back to the chorus, and that's pretty much all the parts of that song. All right, let's put it all together and play it all the way through. Okay, this is Lords of Salem off Educated Horses, Rob Zombie. And with this song, there's a strange tuning. Every string, if you're in 440, everything is tuned down one whole step. So your high E string is a D, your B string is now an A, your G string is an F, and your D string is a C, your A string is a G, but now your low E string goes down 2 whole steps, so it's a C. So we have, starting with the low string, C, then we have G, then we have C, then we have F, we have A, and for your high E is now a D. Now when I'm explaining this and I say C, technically I'm playing a C because it is tuned that way. But for most guitar players and lessons that I've seen, they'll explain it with your finger is on the E note, because your finger is technically on the E note. But if you're tuning it, it's actually a D, because I'm tuned down lower. So when I say my fingers are placed on an E, that's what I'm saying. But if you're hearing it a different way, it's just because I'm in a different tuning. I'm using very minimal pedals, all Boss, just a noise suppressor, super overdrive, a chorus, and a tuner. This song, it's pretty easy, but it's pretty much all about the rhythm and just being tight with the drums. So the first part of it, the intro, it's very simple. It's just starts out with your open C. I guess technically it would be a C. So it just starts out. So you're hitting your first 2 hits, it's open strings with just the C, the G, and the C. So it's, and then you're taking your first finger on the 12th fret, hitting that once, and then striking it again twice open. So we have, again on the first finger on the 12th fret, and then you're hitting your octave C. So altogether it's, and with your picking, you're muting your strings a little bit, just to make it sound a little heavier, a little cleaner, just not so it's so jangly if you're playing open. It sounds a little messier, but if you're muting it, it'll sound a little cleaner, a little tighter. And that's pretty much the intro of the song. Now with the verse, what we're doing, it's all about that rhythm again. And again, this sounds very easy, but when you're playing it live, you have to lock in, especially with a slow song. With a fast song, you can kind of cruise through it, and it doesn't seem like you'll mess up. But if you're doing a slow song like this, dirgy and slow, you'll hear if you're off beat just a little bit, because that one hit, it takes a long time to get to the next hit. So just make sure you're just locking in really well with the drums. Now for the verse, we're doing same open hits on your, and you're playing your E, your A, and your D. So you're hitting them twice, and your first finger's on your 10th fret, and you're hammering to your 12th. And hitting that open string again twice. So then I'm going to hit the chorus on and hit my F note with my 3rd finger. And the chorus is cranked all the way, so you have a crazy warbly sound, such as. So all together you have. Chorus off. Now for that note, I'm hitting the chorus on and off just for that note. After that verse, we go back into the chorus, which is the same as the intro, which is open twice, once with your finger on the 12th fret, hitting that once, twice, once, then the octave, your octave C with your first finger on your C, and your third finger on your C on your G string. So the chorus. So it's all about that heavy chunk getting right in with the drums and feeling that rhythm. You do that 4 more times. There's a little break before the next verse. And what I'm doing is I'm just turning our chorus on. And the chorus pedal, everything is cranked on the chorus pedal. All the knobs are turned to 10. So it has a really kind of crazy, shaky sound to it. And right before the verse, I'm doing a little break, which goes like this. I turn my chorus on, and it's just the same thing as the intro, but I'm playing it just in notes, a little not so many chords. So it's like this. Now, for the second half of the verse, I'm doing a little melody line. Your first finger's on the A, your pinky is on your high E, on your A, so you have an octave. And you're just going chromatic down, A flat, G. And you're strumming, and you're just still hitting that downbeat. And I'm turning on the chorus for this, which makes it sound a little crazier. Back into the chorus. Now we're going to go to the solo, which is done in octaves, starting on C, with your first finger on your C note, your pinky or third finger, whatever you choose, on your C, third fret, A string, G string, you have your 5th fret. So you're going up the minor scale, D, E flat, to the F. So you have twice. And then the second half, you're starting on F. F, E, C, D. You're still keeping the same shape for the octaves. Now the second half of that, starting on your 13th fret on your B string, you bend up, whole step, and you have 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, 13 on your E string. Back down, 13, 12, 10 on your E string, 13, 12, 10 on your B string. Now you're going to change it up a little bit and go chromatic down, starting on your G note. Same thing on your D string, same shape on your A string, and landing on your F. Slow. And then we go back to the chorus for the the end chorus, end of the song, and it's the same thing as your previous choruses. The very end of the song is just rhythmic on your open strings. So it's just all rhythm with your hand. It's kind of like Love Gun Kiss. So and then that's Lords of Salem. All right, let's put it all together and play it all the way through. All right, and now I'm going to play the Lords of Salem with the greatest drummer in the world, Tommy Clufetis, and here's how it goes. Hi, my name is John Five, and I play guitar for Rob Zombie. Let's see, in the past I played for David Lee Roth and Marilyn Manson, Rob Halford, Katie Lang, and I actually started playing guitar when I was about 7 years old, and I actually wanted to be a session musician, just to play on different records and to play on, a different band every day. And I started taking lessons at a very early age. And I was so little that my left hand, I would play so much and it would stretch. My left hand grew larger than my right hand, which is a kind of weird, freaky thing that not a lot of people know. My early influence, I loved the Monkees when I was a kid. I was so little, but I was really into the music. And then I started getting into Kiss and the whole look and sound and vibe of it. And it just really had an effect on my life. And I remember this vividly. We had this place in Michigan called Harmony House. And I would always go and look for new Kiss records because, I never knew when they would come out or anything like that. So I would just always go look. And I saw this Van Halen record, and it said Gene Simmons on the back of the record. And of course, I knew everything there was to know about Gene Simmons. And so I bought the record thinking, I was, very, very young at the time. I was like 8 years old or something. I was thinking like he was a part of Van Halen or something. And then I remember putting it on and what an effect it had on my life. And it was a true epiphany for me because hearing that sound really changed my life. And so after that, I was a Van Halen nut for forever, and I just learned everything I could. My teacher, who I was so lucky to have, he was a real musical genius. He could figure out everything. And this is, when Van Halen 2 just came out, this guy was amazing. And he taught me everything, and I would just go to my lessons every week, just so excited. And all I would do is play guitar. But after Van Halen, that's when I started getting into Yngwie Malmsteen. I heard Steeler, and it was a band that Yngwie was in. And I remember being so blown away. And that really stayed with me for a long time. I remember I was in 5th grade. We had this band, and we would just go and play covers. It was just really to get experience. And for some weird reason, I understood that, even if there wasn't people there or, girls throwing their, 5th grade bras up on stage, I understood it was more experience. So I was playing this place called the Hamtramck Pub, and, my parents were there and all the, the people, and it was literally this bar. And I remember being very nervous because, there was a lot of people there, and I was, in 5th grade. And the singer said, "Make sure you're careful because the stage is very flimsy." And I was like, I was like, "Oh, okay, I know what I'm doing." So I go walking out there. I'm the first to go walking out there. Here they are, and everyone's clapping. So I go out there and I have my guitar around me just like this, and I step on the stage, and of course, I wasn't listening. The stage is so flimsy, and I go falling and, skid my chin across the stage and the guitar's feeding back. And that was my first time on stage and just fell in front of, everybody. So knock on wood, that was my worst stage experience of falling or something. It was the very first time on stage. Even if you're playing clubs and people aren't there and there's that guy, your drummer or your bass player saying, what are we doing this for? It's all for experience, because later in life, when you go and play, your local huge Enormo Dome or the arena in town, you'll be experienced and you won't be as nervous, because all those little places you played, and every time you step on stage, you will feel more and more comfortable. As soon as I finished high school, I got in my car and I drove to Los Angeles. And I didn't know anybody, but I lived in this warehouse and I started playing around town and getting my name out there. And luckily I started doing sessions, and I would do them really cheap and really fast. So a lot of people would start using me because there was like, oh, there's this kid in town and he's doing these sessions for half of the price of the other people. And he's getting them done really quick, because I was like, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I had to do it quick and get out of there, because, they wanted the singer in there or whatever. I was just the guitar player filling in for the song. And that's how I started playing with so many different people. And then I started going on auditions for tours. I understood, like, if I was going on an audition for, like, k.d. lang, there was like 200 guitar players. So I learned all of her songs and, all of the different tunings and all the country stuff. And I got the gig. I looked kind of out of the ordinary. And I think that's what's really important if you're going out to do a tour. Understand, like, if you're going out to audition for a certain band, understand the look, understand what kind of guitars they use, understand, what they're about, and don't go in there, looking like someone else. Look like that band you're going to audition for, and that's what I've always done. I think that had a lot to do with it, with why I'm doing well today. It's just, it's who you know and getting your face out there and playing as much as you can. After a show, I'll meet fans out by the bus or something, and they'll say, how do I make it in the music business? Which, it's a very hard question to answer, let alone answer when you're walking to the bus. Really, because I think about it. So what I did was I understood that I wasn't going to do anything in Michigan. And I understood that I needed to move to Los Angeles or New York. And the reason I picked Los Angeles is because, at that time in the 80s, all the, hair bands were, there, and all the guitar players and everything. So I moved to Los Angeles, and I hate cold weather anyways. But I understood that I needed to go where bands were getting signed, where things were happening. And I tell that to a lot of people, and I think they get discouraged because they don't want to hear the truth of, you have to move away. You have to move out of your safe area to make it in a certain business that you want to be in. I practice quite a bit, and I don't do it to, like, be the best player or anything like that. I do it just for really peace of mind. I just love to play guitar, and I always have a guitar with me. If anybody knows me, it's, I look, uncomfortable without a guitar on me. But, I love learning different styles, because it was like, you get tired of eating the same food, it's like you want to learn something different. So instead of playing rock all the time, I love, like I was saying before, playing different styles of music, which I think is important if you're going out to try to be a successful musician, because it's not always power chords and arpeggios or something like that. Sometimes you need to do different things and different styles. At least I have in the past. And I always felt in school if someone asks me a certain question about math or history, and everybody's looking at me like they're looking at me now, and they ask me a certain question, the teacher asked me, I always felt very uncomfortable if I didn't know the answer. And I never wanted to feel that way about music or about a certain style of music or playing. If someone asked me to play a certain style, I wanted to be educated enough to know how to execute that style. That's why I love sitting around and learning different things. It's, it's for myself too. It's just fun to do, like banjo style. And things like that. It's totally different from rock, of course, because you're using your fingers. And Western swing. So different styles like that, I like playing just to keep it interesting. It just keeps it fresh, and it makes me want to play guitar more because there's different things for me to practice. Behind the nut bends. Things like that, weird stuff like that, are things I like to play and practice other than just heavy rock music. And when I joined Katie Lang, there was this multi-instrumentalist named Larry Campbell, and he played banjo, mandolin, and lap steel, and guitar, and fiddle, and everything else. And all he did was practice, and he just played all these instruments, just amazing. And so that's what really, made me study country. And I just love playing that style as well. Right now I play with Rob Zombie, and I just couldn't be happier. It's just such a perfect fit because we're making some really great music, and I get a chance to play, and I get a chance to do solo live and really get a chance just to run around on stage and be who I am. That's where I am right now, and I'm also putting out these instrumental records, which I did just for fun. When I left Marilyn Manson, I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll put out an instrumental record just for the hell of it. And put it out, and it got so popular. I was so surprised. It was on the cover of all these magazines. I couldn't believe it. And it was just this crazy instrumental music. And now I'm working on my fourth record. And so it's been great. I've been very lucky and very happy with what I do. I play Fender guitars. I have my own signature series. This is the prototype, actually. And I have 3 different models. I was playing with another company, and I was at the NAMM show, and Fender came up to me and said, would you like to, check out our guitars? And I was actually always playing their guitars throughout my whole life. At a very early age, I loved Hee Haw, that television show, and they all played Telecasters, and so I always played a Telecaster. But Fender came to me and said, would you like to do your own signature series? And that's when I started using Fender and got my own line of guitars. And it's been great ever since, just to have my name associated with Fender, let alone have my own signature series, which is still incredible to me. I use Marshall amps. I've always used Marshall amps for God knows how long. Ever since I've been playing through an amp, I've pretty much used Marshall amps. I don't use a lot of effects. When I was in Marilyn Manson, I had a bunch of effects, and somebody said, oh, John Five, he all he is effects. And so I was so shocked, and it was just one person that said that, but since then I only use like a distortion pedal and a wah pedal, and that's pretty much all I use because I just always let my hands do the work. And same thing with a bar. You know, someone said, oh, he uses a bar a lot, so I stopped using a bar. So that's what, you know, in the beginning you saw me do a lot of stuff behind the nut and down with this, you know, with the tuning peg. So, you know, I hope no one else says, oh, he only uses 6 strings, and then I'll have to learn everything on like 5 strings or something. But I just basically just use a couple pedals and Marshall amps and Fender guitars, and that's pretty much all I've ever used.